Hey everyone, welcome to my video. I'm Tom, TomBerkenmeyer.com. This video is going to be for people who are interested, sincerely interested, in learning how to unshackle themselves from the dollar so that you can be free of that nonsense and be able to do whatever you want with your time. So I've sprinkled in before about how when I got started, I needed my parents. I lived with my parents when I got started. And I've sprinkled that in before in the past, and nobody really asked me about it. And today somebody finally asked me about it. So I'm doing a whole blog and video dedicated to that one topic. Have you heard of a term called boomerang? Well, a boomerang is basically somebody who goes out on their own after, growing up with their parents, raised by their parents, and then hard times, whatever, and then they boomerang back to their parents because they're broke or whatever and they lost their job. Well, now there's a whole generation called the boomerang generation. And this is a very long trending generation. It's longer than most generational things. It's been going on for quite a long time where a large percentile of the population, kids, they grow up, they move out of their parents' house, and they're on their own, maybe kind of, parents are helping them out, and suddenly because the job racket is just so terrible, earnings are terrible, the economy sucks, and they have to go, it's like, oh my God, I have to go back home and live with mom and dad. Well, that was me. That was me. The last job that I ever had, it was a good job. I was a company man. I did everything I was supposed to do. I showed up, went above and beyond. I got merit increases. I got along with everybody that worked there, including the boss and so forth. But at the end of the day, what thanks did I get? I got a big F you, go to the unemployment line. We sold your job out for cheaper jobs over in India or wherever. And so the last time was enough for me. That was it. But at the same time, I had to depend on my mom and dad again to survive like I did when I was a baby. And all of the self loathing and the intense depression that came along with it. I was sad. Sometimes I cried. Sometimes I was just really pissed off. I was mostly pissed off at the system. I made excuses how it was everyone's fault except mine. I mean, really, I was hardworking. I did my end of the deal. I went above and beyond my end of the deal. My work ethics, nobody's going to outwork me. Nobody's going to outdo me in anything. And I got along with everybody. So it wasn't like it was a fight or something. It was just purely a numbers decision based on what was happening in the economy. So I was pissed off that I showed up and went above and beyond my end of the deal. And that's the thanks I get? Are you kidding me? And even if they did keep me, at the end of the day, I'm still trading my time for money, still shackled to the dollar. I'm not financially free, even if that did work out and I had a great paying job and this and that, and benefits and perks and all that stuff. I'm still not a free human being. I'm living underneath that shackle of the dollar. I don't want it. That's not for me. But it was worse than that. When you lose your job, you get unemployment. Maybe I did, but it runs out after 6 months. And nobody was hiring at that time. And so things were bad. I went back and, depended on my parents once again. Very, very mentally. I mean, if you have an independent mind at all, like I've always had a brain of independence, that messes you up, man. Emotionally, psychologically. Oh my God, that killed me. I hated it. Hated it, hated it, hated it. Because I want to be independent. And I'm not really independent with a job either. Because you're depending on a company to take care of you if that's your only income. And I'll get into that later. That's an integral part of my story. So here's why I wanted to do a whole blog about that. I'm going to read the question now because I always talk about overcoming adversity. I never talk about how I created success and then I leave out the stuff, the crap I had to go through to create it. Otherwise, it's not real and nobody's going to be able to relate to it. And let's face it, I want to inspire people to do this with me so that we can all be financially free together and healthy physically, emotionally, psychologically, and financially. Because I want people to do this with me. I want to inspire people to get healthy and knock out the trends of consumer debt and consumer obesity and chronic diseases. I want to get rid of all that stuff as much as I can anyway, being me and who I am. So I'm going to read the question a friend posted to me. And this is, I wish more people would post questions like critical questions because these are great. So if you have questions for me, please. So the question is, did you live out on your own when you started this process, or did you still live with your parents? Do you think that made a difference if you still lived at home? And if you were out on your own, how did you pay all your bills for the time you were jobless until your business started generating income to live off of? Okay, so to answer those questions, this is very nuanced and I'm going to go over all of it. because there's going to be people out there, no matter what I say, no matter what happens, there's going to be people like, well, it's easy for you, Tom. You lived with your mom and dad. Uh, if only I had that option, maybe I could be successful like you and all this other stuff. Okay, fine. Fair enough. Or is it? Okay, so when I got started, the girl I was dating over a decade ago, she got started in the home business industry. And at first I said no because I was already jobless. I had no income. Unemployment was already running out, or no, it had already run out. So I had nothing coming in. So I said no. Then I saw she started making really nice money. She was getting really healthy physically and financially. And I'm like, F it. I'm sick of this. I got to do this. Even if I don't have any income coming in, even if I got to borrow money, put it on a credit card, I got to do something. So I got started. I got in. And then I had to get really creative and think outside of the box and raise money from nothing just so I could pay off the credit card. A lot of people said I was stupid for starting. Well, what do they know? They're still shackled to the dollar and I'm not. So I think stupidity needs to be redefined here in this case for anybody that has an open mind. It's really important. I self-criticize regularly when I need to. And I take criticism from other people too, but I'm selective about where it comes from because I don't want to go back to where I was. So anyway, I developed a resource that I now call 31 Ways of Raising Money Without Having Any. You need money to make money? No. Most people that start with money, they just throw money at a problem. It just deepens the problem. They have more problems, more money problems than other problems. So money definitely isn't the thing that makes more money. It's certain skills. Skills. And who can learn new skills? Anybody. All of us have learned things in the past, therefore we're fully capable of learning something new. If I've had a stroke of luck, it's not living with my parents when I got started. It's that I have an intrinsic desire, a fire in the belly to learn something new. So that's how I tackled it, just something I have to figure out. So when I got started, something I had to figure out. Okay, something new I got to learn. Well, let's learn how I'm going to pay this thing off because I don't know if I'm going to make any money right away. 31 Ways of Raising Money. You can get a copy of it. I give it away for free. TomBerkenmeyer.com. It's on the right column. Scroll down. You'll see 31 ways. Go through them all. Just pick out a couple of the 31 ways, and who knows what you can do. I've had people tell me they were able to create over 500, a few people over $800 or $1,000 in like the first month they applied it. So who knows what you can do. That makes a big difference. So that was my start, and I paid off my credit card, and I've never missed a credit card payment, ever. Never, because I got outside of the box. So bringing it back to the fact that I got started living with my parents and being needy for my parents. I mean, they covered my food, but whenever I went out to eat with friends, it meant I would go out with them but not eat, and that kind of sucked. But at home anyway, at least I had the food covered, and no utility bills, obviously no mortgage or rent. Now I'm a homeowner, and I don't have a mortgage because I bought it in cash. But back to what I'm getting at here, I was resourceful with what I had. What I mean by that is all money that I made, I still had like a cell phone bill, and I was on the minimum plan possible, and even that I was thinking about canceling. But I had a cell phone bill and car insurance, and maybe a couple other things. I don't remember what, but small stuff, nothing big, no utilities, no rent or mortgage. So I still had those. When you have nothing coming in, they still got to be paid. So I paid myself first before I paid any of those bills. That is a rich wealth concept that maybe 1 out of 50 people will really absorb and practice. Most people will pay bills first before they pay themselves. So the cycle of being financially shackled to the dollar continues, and too much month at the end of the money will just last forever until they stop that nonsense. So I paid myself first. Put down the credit card, that's how I paid for it. Didn't have the means of paying the credit card off, so I got my butt to work, learned 31 ways of raising money without having any, until my business took off to where that would be like the main income provider for me. So time-wise, I had enrolled back into college. Because my job was offshored from bad federal trade policies, I qualified for some program where the government paid for all of my schooling. So okay, I'll take it. So I didn't have to spend a dime on anything, even my books and pencils and papers and stationery stuff, folders. I didn't have to pay for any of it. So yeah, I went. But I went full-time and a half. So it was like college plus a job on top of full-time college. because I never found a job, and I guess I didn't have time for one at that point, but holy shit. So I had no time to do it, but I managed to carve out 20 minutes a day. And 20 minutes a day is enough if you learn to be resourceful. And that goes back to, thank goodness, I love learning. I innately love learning. So it's like, I can't build a business in 20 minutes a day. No, after that, it's just something else to figure out. I'll learn how. So I learned how to do it. And I'll learn how to raise money without having any. And I'll learn how to do it inside of 20 minutes a day because that's all I can carve out. So see a pattern here? And so regarding being a boomerang child and getting started living with my parents and so forth and the few bills that I had, my parents, wow, wonderful people. Not everyone has that. You may not have that option. You may have not a pot to piss in, so to speak, and you don't know what you're going to do. And you don't have any time either. It's something to learn and figure out. As for stories I've heard from people that were in situations that were worse than mine because they didn't have their parents, some of them have figured it out. Most of them really aren't interested in figuring it out because they're just, blaming their circumstances. And it's easy to do that. I'm not demonizing anybody. But whatever your situation is, I guarantee you 10 times out of 10 times there is somebody who had it even worse than you. Somebody who was homeless, who was destitute, who was $1 million more in debt than you were, health problems, you name it. There was somebody, 10 times out of 10, there is a walking, living, talking, breathing example of somebody who had it worse than you, who figured it out and solved all those problems. And they're out there teaching it to other people because they got one hell of a story. The worse that your story is, I guess that's not the right way to frame it, the harder that your story is, the more heartbreaking it is, the tougher it is, the more powerful your story has the potential to be. As you solve those problems, you can inspire other people. Homeless person learns some new skills inside of a couple years, 2 years, 3 years. That homeless person is $1 million a year earner and inspiring other homeless people and teaching them. Whatever, call it whatever you want, but you see where I'm going with that. Or take it to health. A woman with diabetes, severe diabetes, injecting insulin every day for 20 years, A1C reading is 7.3, drops her A1C below 6.0, is off insulin, totally restored pancreas. Here's how she did it. Whatever the hardship is, the harder that it is, man, the more potential you have for greatness and inspiring people. People have had it worse than me who figured it out. People have had it worse than you have figured it out. The key ingredient, the common denominator, is when people start to figure out their problems, no matter how bad it is. That's when the brain opens up to a rich and creative process from a poor and lazy one. So you see, when you're shunting responsibility and you're blaming everything around you, blaming your circumstances, and you're looking at Tom going, well, Tom, at least you had your parents. Maybe I could be successful too if I had that. If that's your mindset, it's poor and lazy because you no longer have to think, search, or look for answers. You don't have to learn anything new because it's not your fault. And that's bullshit. All of that is garbage. And that's the way my brain operated too, back when I wasn't solving any problems. But I began solving problems when I adopted a new, better philosophy. Not just different, but a superior philosophy over an inferior philosophy. And that is, okay, it's time to learn some new things and figure this stuff out. Yeah, somebody broke a promise and got rid of my job. Yeah, my circumstances are hard. But it would have been the same thing if I did not have my parents. Let's say I did become homeless. It would be the same thing. Okay, this is something I got to figure out because it goes back to I had that intrinsic desire to learn and solve my problems. But when I coupled that with no more excuses, that's when I took off. That's when you go from a poor, lazy mindset because you don't have to think or find answers anymore because it's not your fault, to a rich and creative one because now you're on the search. You're looking for answers. You're going to be rich and creative. Maybe financially too, if that's what you want. But at least the brain has to be rich and creative, regardless of your money situation. Money doesn't solve problems. A rich and creative brain solves problems. And then you can be rich financially if you want to. Start asking, how can I, instead of I can't. And let me talk about my parents a little bit because this has to be said. My parents are it goes without saying how wonderful they are. My dad passed on a few months ago, and I miss him so much. And the product that I represent is a health product. That's what I made my passive and residual money on. I helped my dad extend his life by 9 years by getting him on the product of the company that I represent, that I became financially free with. His medical doctor even says he had no right to expect to be around and to be doing as well as he was doing. That's what his medical doctor said. But I helped him out, man. I got to have my dad for an extra 9 years at least, because I got him on a health product that supported that helped with that. And he just passed on. I miss him so much. I can't even bring myself to say that he died or even passed away. He passed on. And I still have my mother. And someday she's going to pass on too. And I can't wait to be with my dad again. He's in heaven, and I know it's heaven because he's there. And I can't wait to see him again, but without discounting the life that I have left on earth. And it needs to be that way because my dad wants me to enjoy myself here and make it a good life. So I'm going to continue to do that, and I'm going to continue to tell my story of the good, the bad, and the ugly, and inspire as many people as I can to get on this journey with me, to get in this journey of learning, figuring stuff out. And for those of you that are interested in representing a health product that helps people get results and helps them build their immune system and helps them to reverse inflammation and heart disease and brain disease and sore, achy joints and stuff that helps people improve their physical fitness and their balance and their stability and their functionality and how they live day to day, and to have better energy. For a lot of people, release weight from fat and get stronger and more youthful as we get older. A product that helps people do all of those things and to get healthy financially. And for people that want to get away from their job and retire from that, help people do that too. So that's how I'm going to live a good life, is by spending my time how I want, unshackled from the dollar, as I've done, starting from living at my parents' house. But the starting point, it doesn't really matter because, like I said, there's somebody who had it worse than you, somebody who had it worse than the person who didn't have their parents, maybe even somebody who started from a place worse than being homeless and destitute. There's an example, 10 out of 10, there's an example of somebody living who did it, who figured it out, who's willing to teach it, because, man, that's a great story, isn't it? So don't suffer from compare-itis. Don't walk away from this saying, Tom, you're lucky because, and then fill in the blank with whatever you want it to be. That's compare-itis, and that's when, I say this with love, that is when you have mastered ripping yourself off long before anybody else ever could, before anybody could break a promise to you or do something that isn't right to you or something bad happens. That's when we rip ourselves off before anybody could. And there's already enough thieves out there on the street that's after your wallet. So the last thing you need is to be your own worst thief with excuses and shunting responsibility and compare-itis and all of those things. And I've done all of those things. And that's when I was poor and lazy in my brain, because I wasn't on the search for answers and figuring stuff out. I wasn't until I put it on my shoulders and said, okay, something I'm going to learn how to do and figure out, and I'm going to enjoy the process. And that was another thing. At first, I didn't really enjoy the process, and everything that went wrong kind of got to me. But as I went through my personal development stuff, I was able to swap those bad philosophies out for some really good philosophies. So for this one, it was like, okay, I'm going to consciously decide what I'm going to attach my emotions to and what I'm going to detach my emotions from. And suddenly, I could enjoy the process of figuring stuff out. If I fell, if I slipped, somebody threw a wrench at me or broke a promise, it's just part of the process, part of the deal, part of the process to enjoy and learn from every step of the way. A book called Failing Forward. Failing forward. What a concept. Not failing back, failing forward. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. It's a pretty cool philosophy. So, I love my parents dearly. I can't wait to see my dad again. I still got my mom. I'm going to enjoy her for as long as I can have her. I miss my dad terribly. I talk to him every day. I talk to my dad more than God. It's true. Usually when I'm talking to God right now, it's to make sure that my dad can hear me. Big time. And I still cry. I'll probably always have moments where I just think of a memory and I start crying. I just miss him so much. And I'm happy I got to help him extend his life by 9 years. And a big part of that was this superfood shake, this product I represent in my business that I started. The room that I'm in right now, I don't know if I said that in this video, but this is at my parents' house. This is my room at my parents' house. I figured it would be fitting to do this video here. So if you see other videos, sometimes I'll do videos here for like my regular video blogs, just because it's fun. But then I do most of them at my house or in my car typically lately. In my house, by the way, that I paid for in cash, I said I'd get to that later. Yeah, I built it up. It's residual and passive, so it was able to get big enough where I could buy my house in cash. That's a pretty cool deal. So I didn't have a mortgage or rent back then, and I still don't have a mortgage or rent today, but for totally different reasons. Very different reasons. And I can take trips, I can travel, I can do projects that don't pay anything at all. Maybe I might have to put out some money, and it's okay. I don't have to check with a gatekeeper if I need to take time off of working, because I love work. I'm a workaholic. Just because I don't have a job doesn't mean I don't work. I love working, but I'm going to do what I want to do when I want to do on my terms. I love working. It doesn't even matter if it pays anything. I do all kinds of stuff for free because I can. Back way beyond this, I didn't have the option of doing things for free because I could have been homeless. If it wasn't for my parents, I would have been homeless. And if I didn't get involved with this company and help my dad with his health and so forth, a good chance he wouldn't have been around another 9 years. And then I would have been, he was the breadwinner. So that's a pretty big freaking deal, man. So what I hope you got out of this video is that you can contact me. If you want to see what I'm doing, private message me. I'll share it with you. And if it's a good fit for you, we will do it. It's all about health and fitness and wellness and learning how to make an income, a passive and residual one. That's key, passive and residual income, so that you can emerge at some point in the future with the option of walking away from your day job. If you want to keep it, great. It's optional. You don't need it anymore. You're not needy for that paycheck. That's the thing I impress upon everyone. I'm not a job basher. I'm a neediness basher. And if you want to walk away from it because you don't like it for whatever reason, great. You can take that option. That's the option I took. I never did find a job again. For me, I just called off the job search because I didn't need one anymore. And that's where I want to take all of you that are interested to this place where you've got that option. So everything you do is optional and you're living in freedom instead of chains and shackles to the dollar and that ridiculous nonsense that they sold you in school. Well, I hope you enjoy this. Feel free to ask me any questions that you want. And my hope for you is that if you want to see what I'm doing, contact me. I'll show it to you. And my hope for you is to not suffer from compare-itis and realize it's all about, I'm going to learn something new. I'm going to figure stuff out. Somebody else had it worse than me somewhere, and they did it. 10 times out of 10, that's true. So I can do it too. Rich and creative brain equates to you're going to create a rich and creative life. It's better than a poor and lazy one, okay? Bye for now, everybody. And again, my website is tomberkenmeyer.com, just like it's spelled here in social media. tomberkenmeyer.com. Let me look at this question one last time, make sure I answered every aspect of that question in this dedication blog to this one topic matter. Yeah, I did answer them all. Cool. All right. So, talk to you soon, guys. I recommend if you enjoyed this video, share it. Put it out there. Maybe you got friends and family that need to hear this too. Who knows? Bye for now. Mwah.